hello everyone, my name is Allison Stroshine, and I'm thrilled to be conducting Shanti Pox's first video log. Those of you who are new to Shanti Pox, it's a blog dedicated to telling the stories of inspirational people who are adding peace to the world, what we can learn from their stories and apply to our own lives. And I'm super excited to be speaking with Rule Walker, who is the Educational Program Development Manager for the Pachamama Alliance, an organization that is adding an extraordinarily enormous amount of peace to the world. Pachamama's mission is to empower indigenous people of the Amazon rainforest to preserve their lands and culture, and using insights gained from that work to educate and inspire individuals everywhere to bring forth a thriving, just, and sustainable world. I was fortunate enough to meet Rule in the middle of the jungle of Costa Rica at a yoga retreat, and when he told me what he did, I knew I had to get involved. So, welcome Rule, thank you so much for talking with me. So my first question is, can you tell us what Pachamama means and how the organization got started?
Okay, good. Hello everyone, I'm Rule Walker. I'm speaking from Oakland, California, across the bay from San Francisco, and I'm really thrilled to be on Allison's blog and to hear what she's doing in the world. It's very inspiring. Okay, great. So Pachamama is a word in the Quechua language of the Andes, which is the dominant indigenous culture of the Andes. And it means, some people say it means the spirit of the earth, or Mother Earth. But it actually, in the Quechua cosmology, it actually stands for all the spirit of all space and time, the entire universe, and all time and history. So it's really the whole thing. And the organization got started about 15 years ago when there's a tribe in the Amazon called the Achuar, A-C-H-U-A-R. And about 15 or 20 years ago, they really hadn't had much contact with the modern world. They were pretty much an uncontacted culture. There were a few missionaries, but not very extensive. And their area, their 2 million acres in the rainforest, or 3 million, I believe, is basically undeveloped, no roads, but they're a dream-based culture. And in fact, when you go visit the Achuar, which our organization sponsors trips for people to go visit the Achuar now, but when you go visit them, you see that every morning about 4 o'clock, the family gets up and they sit in a circle around the fire. The first thing they do is that everyone in the family says what they dreamed the night before, and the family decides what it wants to do that day based on what the members of the family dreamed. And 15 years ago, the dreams of their culture, they do the same thing for the culture as a whole, and their dreams were telling them that if they did nothing, that something very dangerous was coming their way, and they knew that was the modern world because they'd seen what impact it had on some of their neighbors. But the dreams tell them if they just waited for the modern world to come to them, they would be destroyed.
Wow.
And the alternative they had was to go forward and meet the modern world on their terms and choose to change in the ways they wanted to. And that if they did that, they would prevail. But there was more to it than just their prevailing or their surviving as a culture. Their dreams told them that they had a message for the modern world that was very important for the modern world to hear. And that message was basically what you need to do is change the dream of the modern world, change the fundamental assumptions that our culture has about what life is about and where we're headed as a culture. So when they had these dreams, and what part of the dreams told them that what the wise course of action would be to find well-meaning people in the modern world who could advise them about how to engage with the modern world, which they didn't really have any idea how to do that, who could be their advisors and be their allies in this task of moving forward and engaging with the modern world on their own terms. So they sent messages out in a variety of ways, some of which reached a couple in San Francisco named Bill and Lynn Twist, and another man named John Perkins, who wrote a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman that many people will have probably read. But John and Bill and Lynn were friends, and they each received basically the same message in different ways, that someone was calling to them from the Amazon rainforest, and they did some investigation and found out that in fact it was the Achuar. And so they pulled together a group of about 12 people and flew down and landed in the middle of the rainforest. There was one tiny little landing strip in the middle of Achuar territory, and met with the Achuar elders for about a week or 10 days. And Bill and Lynn had not been involved in either rainforest issues or indigenous issues up till that time. But their experience with the Achuar totally changed their lives, and they realized that working with the Achuar as their allies was the purpose of the rest of their life. And so they and John Perkins together founded the Pachamama Alliance to be those allies for the Achuar in engaging with the modern world. And it was then that the Achuar said to them as well, you know, it's great that you want to be our allies in working to preserve the rainforest. But if you really want to preserve the rainforest, the most important work you can do is back in your own culture. You need to change the dream of the modern world, because it's really that dream that's driving the destruction of the rest of the world. And, you know, Bill and Lynn and John and anyone else who heard that story said, you know, they're right. It's not just that we need to recycle more or consume less. It's that our whole set of assumptions about the grow and consume culture and the infinite expansion of industrial capacity is a self-destructive dream, and the illusion that no matter what happens, technology will figure out how to handle it. And as people who are paying attention to climate change around the world know, that's simply not the case, and it's not reversible. Some of the things that are happening are not easily reversible at all. About 7 or 8 years ago, we said, you know, they were really right about this changing the dream of the modern world. So we researched and created an educational program called the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium that has as its purpose to wake people up in the modern world to the fact that the way we're living is completely unsustainable, and not just in terms of the environment, but also in terms of social justice and the impact on our own spirit of the way we're living. That this grow and consume culture and people losing their connection to other people is very alienating, and there's a huge price that we're paying that's killing us, and that we need to change that fundamental dream. So.
Wow, that's really powerful. Well, along the lines of what you've just said, an indigenous leader is quoted as saying, if you are coming to help us, you being the Western world, if you are coming to help us, you are wasting your time. If you are coming because you know your liberation is bound with ours, then let's work together. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, there's so many different levels you can hear in that statement. On one level, it's simply about the fact that if we think we've got the solutions and we're going to help them figure out how to change their world so that they can, you know, live a better life, that we've got the answers and they need our help, then that's probably not going to work very well, because, you know, there's 200 years of colonial history showing that that kind of approach is destructive to everybody. On another level, it's the realization that it's not that the Western world has things figured out and the indigenous world just needs to modernize. It's that we all are caught up in a system that's taking us in a direction that we don't want to go. You know, it looks like we're driving that system of consumption and growth and domination and capitalism and exploitation and all those things. But the truth of the matter is we're also victims of that system. And the price we're paying is enormous. And that, in fact, the indigenous world has a lot of wisdom about some of the corrections that we need to make. Not that the indigenous worldview is the perfect worldview. Our worldview isn't the perfect worldview either. But each worldview has its limitations. And if we could take the best of those two worldviews and merge them, you know, the scientific knowledge and the creativity and the structure of democracy and basic human rights from the modern world, as just some examples, and to take the indigenous world's view, understanding of community, of human spirit, of our connection to the earth, and our interconnection with all of the rest of creation. If we could create a wholly different worldview, merging the best of those, that would be what we need, all of us need at this time in history.
Yeah, that's great. I know you've traveled to the Amazon, to various parts, and have met with people in the region. Can you share with us some of the highlights or what that experience was like for you?
Yeah. Well, most people who go to the Amazon with an organization like Pachamama or with Pachamama itself, where you go out of a spirit of respect with indigenous cultures and not a spirit of observing or, you know, adventure tourism, that kind of thing. But if you go with I'm being completely open because I know that there are many things I need to know here. I need to learn here. It's you see life in a very different way. It's a transformational experience to see people in a relationship of complete harmony with nature and of recognizing interdependence and of a sense of community, of connection with other people. Now, again, indigenous cultures have their own problems, but in terms of the things that we need to learn that we sense are not on target with the modern Western world, simply seeing the indigenous world and that sense of basic harmony with nature, respect for the environment, and respect for the human community, that can be profoundly transformational. And many people come back with a changed sense of who they are and a changed sense of the importance of acting to change the direction we're heading at this point in history.
Is there a story that you can think of, like a highlight of your personal experience?
Let's see. I think, the story that came to mind is not my personal one, but it's a very good story. That in that first group of 12 people that went down there, one of the people in the tribe was someone who, his business is storage. You know how where you rent a storage locker and there's like a huge building of individual closets where people store the things they don't need. And so there are conversations with the Achuar, well, like, they tell us about what their daily life is like, and we tell them what our daily life is like. And when he tried to describe what his business was about this huge building of storing things that you couldn't use in your own home, the Achuar just could not understand that. Why would you have things that you don't use? And another funny story was when they landed in that first plane, they were around the fire one evening, and the Achuar said, "Which one of you made that plane?" Their frame of reference was that anything you use, you know how to make.
That's incredible.
And so their assumption was that someone in this group had made that plane.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's a very different way of seeing the world.
That's incredible. Well, part of the spirit of Shanti Pox is we like to end on positive notes. And so what can we do as people who live in our daily lives, and we have work and family, but we're really interested in changing our vision and adding a different maybe routine to our lives? What advice do you have for us to grab a hold of this vision?
Well, I think a part of the message of the Pachamama Alliance and our Awakening the Dreamer Symposium is that it's important not only to change our personal actions, things that we've all heard before, recycle more, consume less, be aware of what's going on in the world, but that it's important to not only make those personal changes, but also to really become well-versed and educated in the systems and structures that are keeping the old dream, the dream of consumption and growth and corporate power. What are the systems and structures that keep that dream in place? And not only just changing things and maybe acting with higher consciousness, but what can I do that might begin to strike at the root of those fundamental systems and structures? Thoreau has a famous quote. I may not get it exactly, but it's something like the fact that for every 1,000 people who are hacking at the branches and undergrowth of evil, there is one person who is seeking to strike at the root of evil. And I think it's a powerful image to say, what can I do that strikes at the root of this system that is creating such a rigged game in keeping us headed in the direction of greater and greater inequality, greater and greater environmental destruction because of short-term interests dominating it, and to find a way to act in community. That if we have a basic assumption in the modern world that's about being a lone ranger, about doing it on your own, and that's probably not going to last very long. Or it's not going to go very deep. Let me put it that way. If we set out as individual actors rather than as people who live in community and act in community, we have less likely possibility of being sustained in that, of being fulfilled, and of keeping on the correct course. Because when you just are acting on your own, it's easy to get diverted into something that seems like it's a good idea, but it's your personal agenda rather than the long-range strategy that will head for change. And I will recommend that people go to, if it's okay to do a plug here.
Yes, of course, please.
Okay, good. Go to our website, which is pachamama.org, Pachamama.org, and find an Awakening the Dreamer Symposium and take it. It's about a 3 to 4 hour process or experience, and many people find it to be life-changing and giving them a whole different perspective or a whole different way of relating in it. Sometimes the information, you know about it, but you just don't want to face up to all of it at the same time and ask at a really serious level, so what can I do about this? And the organization, Pachamama, is now directing people, it has a strong set of recommendations and a strategy for action in community to take significant action, striking at the root, as I said, to follow up on that vision. The purpose of the symposium is bringing forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, and socially just human presence on the planet. And to say that's a possibility. We can't guarantee we can do it, but to live our lives so that that's what our lives are about is an incredible opportunity and very enriching, regardless of how things turn out. Our lives are more fulfilled if we do the right thing. There's a really powerful quotation from Václav Havel that has guided me, which is that hope is not the belief that things will turn out well. Hope is the belief that what you're doing makes sense, regardless of how things turn out. And that's the spirit in which we invite people to move forward and stay sustainably involved in action to change the dream of the modern world.
Oh, that's just great, Roel. Now, you know that I live in Belgium, and I understand that you have, and I'm planning to attend a symposium myself.
Right.
And there are, because I have subscribers from all over the world, I understand that it's not just in the U.S.,
No.
there are opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, the symposium has been translated into about 13 different languages and has been delivered in 75 countries around the world.
That's great.
So on the map, on the Pachamama website, if you look at the event map or find a symposium on the website, you'll be able to go to Europe, South America, Japan, China, India. There are some places in Africa. There's in Canada, Mexico. There are countries all over the world where you can attend a symposium. And if they're not, you can contact, there'll be someone on the website you can contact and say, hey, how can I get the symposium brought to my area?
That's fabulous. Well, I don't have any more questions, so thank you so much for...
I enjoyed the conversation, Allison.
Oh, thank you so much. And I want to thank our listeners today. If you feel inspired, please post a comment below this video. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to Shanti Pax so you can receive inspirational stories of peace. And please remember that you are powerful beyond measure. And until next time, Shanti Pax be with you.
Bye, Allison.
Bye.
Thank you.